Good afternoon. This is the white group reading lesson for today and tomorrow. It is called Sailors in Space, and you're going to pull up the story that says Sailors in Space right here, and we'll get started, okay? Here we go. You'll notice that at the top of the page, it has some review words here. So we're going to look at those and then look at the difference in the definitions in those. So if you'll take out your whiteboard for me, I want you to copy these down for me. You don't have to write the definitions. I just want you to write down the words for me. The first word is spaceships. S-P-A-C-E-S-H-I-P-S. And if you thought that might have been a compound word, you're right. This word is spaceships. It's two little words, or two words put together, crammed together, no space in the middle, makes one word. The word is spaceships. And if you look on your definition, it says spaceships are machines used to fly into space. Sorry, I was holding that in front of the camera. And then let's go on down to the next one. The next word is float. F-L-O-A-T. Float. And if we come back up here, to float means to stay up. Float. Separate that better. And now on to number 3. The number 3 word is skills. It's got an S on it. It means it's a plural. It means we're talking about more than one skill, because you definitely need more than one skill to get into space. But skills are things a person can do. And in this case, they're talking about working in space. Skills. And the last word is gravity. G-R-A-V-I-T-Y. Gravity. And the definition for gravity is the force that pulls things toward Earth. Gravity. Make sure you have these written down on your practice. I don't need to see them. I don't need to turn them in, but it's good practice to look at these words. Okay. And the next part is much like the last one that we did, the last story that we did, and it asks you to write a prediction. And remember, a prediction is your guess on what the story is going to be about, based on things like these keywords, the title, the picture. So stop for a minute and just give it a thought. What do you think this story is going to be about, based on the things you can read and see up top before reading the story? I'll give you just a minute to do that. You can pause the video to finish it. You can write words if you feel like it, or if you have someone to help you write words and you like to choose to write words, that's great. If you just like to draw a picture for me, that's fine too. Just draw a picture right across these lines. It'll be all good. Okay, I'll give you a minute to do that, and then when you're done, just unpause the video and we'll go back to read the story. Okay, go. All right, are you ready? Very good. Let's read the story now. The story says, and you want to follow along with me, I've talked about this before, I'm going to move my highlighter up over the top. If you want to use your highlighter, that's great. But don't highlight right on the words, because you won't be able to see them. When your pen goes across them, you won't be able to see them. So I'll need you to highlight under, just like you were underlining with your pencil. Okay, here we go. The word astronaut means a sailor in space. So people who go into space are called astronauts. Astronauts are people who work in spaceships. They go into space to learn about the Earth and the Moon. They do tests to learn about the sun the stars. Astronauts need to be good thinkers. Their bodies have to be in good shape too. That is because space is not like Earth. There is gravity on Earth. It pulls people to the Earth. There is not much gravity in space. This makes astronauts float when they are in space. So they have to be strapped down. They also have to work in very small spaces. Astronauts are people with special skills. Very good. Good job. Do you think it would be difficult to work in space or to work without gravity holding you down? You'd have to hang on to everything when you moved around in order to get from place to place. And if you've ever seen videos on NASA where they show the astronauts in space, they do. They pull themselves along by swimming or pulling on things and pulling themselves over to it. Very interesting. Do you think you'd like to go into space someday? I'm not sure I would. I hear it's cold. You know how I hate the cold. So let's go to our next page. Turn this over for me. And we've got our multiple choice questions to answer up here. All right. Colors ready. I'm going to use Mr. Purple today. We don't need him today. We'll need these. Okay. And as always, we're going to read our choices before we ever read the question. So let's start with number 1. The choices for number 1 are sailors, astronauts, spaceships, or gravity. Sailors, astronauts, spaceships, or gravity. And if we read the question, it says, what is most of this story about? Now it says most of this story. It mentions all of these things. It mentions the word sailors, the word astronauts, it mentions spaceships, and it mentions gravity. But one of those you hear more than the others. That's kind of what the story is mainly about. If you think the story is mainly about sailors, circle letter A. If you think the story is mainly about astronauts, circle B. If you think it's about spaceships, circle C. Or gravity, circle letter D. We move on to number 2. Choices for number 2. Give you a minute to finish that. Our choices for number 2 are gravity, spaceships, straps, or space. And here's the question. What pulls people to Earth? What pulls people to Earth? Is it gravity, spaceships, straps, or space? Circle your answer, A, B, C, or D, what you think pulls people to Earth. Now let's go on to number 3. Our choices are a person who works in space, a person who does tests, a person who learns about stars, or a person who thinks very well. And the question says, what does astronaut mean in this story? Do you think it means a person who works in space? Or a person who does tests? Or a person who learns about stars? Or a person who thinks very well? Make your choice and circle the letter A, B, C, or D. And then let's go on to number 4. Number 4 choices are learn, think, float, or work. Learn, think, float, or work. astronauts do in space that they cannot do on Earth? Astronauts learn in space but cannot learn it on Earth? If you think astronauts cannot think on Earth, if you think astronauts cannot float on Earth, or if you think astronauts cannot work on Earth, circle A, B, C, or D. What do astronauts do in space that they cannot do on Earth? It's not eat cupcakes, because I eat cupcakes. I could eat cupcakes anywhere. Although they might be messier in space, that's for sure. Okay, so let's go to our next one. And it says, what special skills do astronauts need? This is the part of the question where we need to look back into the text and find a keyword or a couple of words to skim through the text. That means kind of to read fast and kind of browse looking for a specific word to find the answer to this question. Okay, so the word that we're going to choose today is skills. That's my key word right there, skills. And that's spelled S-K-I-L-L-S. So when I turn this page back over and skim through, I'm looking quickly to find the word skills because my answer should be right next to it. So let's go back to the text. What special skills do astronauts need? I'm just going to skim through this looking for the word skills. Skills. There it is. I see it right there. Now that's the end of a sentence, so I'm probably not going to look after the word skills to find my answer. I'm going to have to look up. So, astronauts are people with special skills. What might those skills be? Let's go back. It says right there, they need to be good thinkers. Their bodies have to be in good shape. Also have to work in very small spaces. Okay, well, I found three special skills that astronauts need. They are good thinkers, good shape, and they have to work in small spaces. So choose one of those, or even two of those, whichever you prefer, and I need you to find the sentence that it belongs to, because for this I want a super sentence. I need to see all of the parts of your super sentence, so please write the whole sentence on the blank. Okay? I'm going to give you a minute to pause that, turn the paper back over, and when you're ready, just come on back. Very good, very good. Did you get that done? Very good. I hope you use correct spelling, and don't forget your super sentence. That's important. And now let's look at the last part on this page. It says, write a retell of Sailors in Space. And remember, a retell is where you pretend like you're talking to your friend, and you say, hey, I just read this great story. It was about astronauts called Sailors in Space. I'd like to tell you about it. Well, you don't have the time, or you haven't memorized the entire story, and your friend probably doesn't want to hear every single word of it. He's just looking for a little bit, enough to get him interested and make him able to follow along with what you're saying. So when you retell the story, you don't write every single word. You just write a sentence, or in this case, draw a picture that gives your friend an idea of what this story is about. So right here, it's got lines. If you'd like to write it, and I challenge you to do so. If you'd like to write it, that's great. Go ahead. Your invented spelling is fine. You can say it to your family member who can write it on your whiteboard for you, and you can copy it onto here. Or, if you'd like, you can draw a picture for me right here. This tells me that you know that this story is not about Mandy the chicken, but rather sailors in space. Okay? So, once you finish that, go ahead and put this paper in your packet, your completed packet. Don't forget to put your name on it. And good job, white group. I will see you next time for your Bible lesson tomorrow on Zoom. I hope you can all join us. Take care. Bye-bye.